Every week's interesting, but last week especially something caught my eye, made me think, put it that way. I was talking to two different clients, both in maintenance, repair, operations businesses, MRO businesses, and each described the way that they were running their consumables program. And each had a vastly different way of doing it. One of them was looking to account for every last washer and nut and fuse that they installed on their equipment in the process of repair and maintaining it. And the other one treated almost everything as consumables and bulk allocated the costs across the various infrastructure that they were maintaining. And it made me think, why are they doing it that way? The main reason that you treat anything as a consumable is to cut down on complexity and cost of administration. So trying to track every last washer and nut on infrastructure is obviously hard to do, and it basically costs time and money. So the more you make things consumable, the lower those transaction costs can be. But you don't want to go too far. So let me step back one though, because there's a couple of different sorts of consumables that we need to think about. In fact, there's three sorts in MRO operations. There's what I'd call business consumables, which is just the cleaning fluids and the light globes in the building and all those things. We don't care about those. Forget about those for now. The two important sorts though are process consumables. So those are the things that you feed into the process if you're manufacturing something or maintaining or building something, so that they become part of whatever you're making in one way or another. So you treat those differently. What I want to talk about today though is the construction or infrastructure consumables. So these are things like the nuts and bolts that you replace or the fuses that you replace in plant and equipment that you're maintaining. So construction consumable, how you approach those. We have over the years developed a decision tool to help people decide in a structured fashion which materials, you might have 4 or 5 or 10,000 materials in your store or in your catalogue, which one of those are you going to treat as consumables. And the way the decision tool works is this: it assumes that there's not just one thing that you decide on. Because if you ask just the supply chain people, they're going to say one thing. If you ask just the technicians, they're going to say something different. But there is 5 factors that I'd say are important to this. The first one is the price and the volume. So it's not very hard to imagine that if you've got washers at 10 cents each, that you don't want to go to too much trouble in trying to track the cost allocation of those washers against a piece of an asset or a piece of infrastructure. The second one is the volume, because if something was only $1 each, but you're using 1 million of them, that it might matter how you cost allocate those things. You might want to track every last metre of cable because it's $35 a metre, especially if you're going a few kilometres. Second thing though, and a bit more complex, is the planability. If you know exactly how many you're going to use of something and put in a BOM, a bill of materials, then yeah, you can asset track it without too much difficulty. But if you're not sure whether you need a 3-inch bolt or a 4-inch bolt, or 2 washers or 4, then the planability of that item is going to be low on a job. So there's a good argument for saying, maybe if that thing's low cost and difficult to plan, then let's make it a consumable. If you don't make those plannable things, or difficult to plan things, consumables, then you end up with a lot of returns because you specify the maximum that you'll need in a BOM. Maybe you'll specify 10 washers. Typically they're using 6 or 8, so you're always going to get 2 or 4 back on every job as a return. Or you're going to get skunk inventory and people start hoarding things, which you don't want that either. So there's number 2. So there's volume, cost, planability. The next one is the assetizing, because some things, even though they're low volume, you want to know what asset they went to. So if you're looking at, say, photoelectric sensor for the top of a light pole, and they might be only $3 each, but you might want to know how often you're replacing them, just for quality management purposes. So there's a factor, assetization of things. And the last one there is really the cost allocation. If you know that you can cost allocate, say, $10,000 worth of nuts and bolts across a bunch of activities that you're performing, and that it's reasonably evenly spread across those activities, then no one's worrying. If you've got 2 sorts of activities, one is using all the nuts and bolts and the other one's not using any of them, then some of those assets are copying cost allocation that they shouldn't get. So you need to be satisfied that you can cost allocate reasonably well. In the finish, what you can see though is if you take a sensible approach to nominating things to be consumables and manage them as consumables, one, you can make it very easy to do VMI on those things, and the second, you can take out transaction cost. So it's a good way to simplify the business for a fair few items in your catalogue.